Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. So I'd like to start off by welcoming everyone this evening. So for uh, most Westerners, we weren't born Buddhist. We weren't raised Buddhist. At some point, we discovered Buddhism. At some point, something attracted us towards Dhamma, towards practice. So for some people, it was stuff like books or hearing a Dhamma talk or maybe seeing something about the Dalai Lama, and that kind of sparked an interest. For other people, it was through meditation and learning about making our minds more peaceful, more calm, improving our lives that way. Some other people, it was about, some of the teachings about how we can help ourselves in our daily lives and improve our daily lives and getting over that suffering and that dukkha, that discontent in our daily lives. But for the vast majority of us, it was something like this. And what really attracted us to Buddhism, to meditation, to practice, was usually the wisdom aspects of the teaching. There's something about this teaching, this way of practice or meditation, just really made sense to us on an intellectual level. We can see that, oh yeah, this makes sense. Um, this is really helpful. This is really clicks with me. And so, coming at it from this more of a wisdom angle, a lot of times something I've seen and observed over time, and I've heard a lot of other monks talk about, is that there's this one concept that a lot of Westerners can have a lot of difficulties with. It's just this concept of faith. And some of the reasons for this is because a lot of Westerners, depending where you come from, sometimes have very strong views on faith. We can have a lot of preconceptions about it, a lot of perceptions about faith. So a lot of these can be based on, you know, the way faith is interpreted and taught by, different religious groups or through different belief systems, or maybe these perceptions are based on our own experience, in a certain type of belief system or interacting with people from a certain belief system. And a lot of times in the West, faith has this idea of blind faith. When we speak about faith, it's just blind faith. You're supposed to just believe, no matter what, you just believe. It's almost as if you have faith, it means you just kind of ignore the facts. If the facts are pointing in one direction, but we have faith so we can believe something different. We can just ignore all the facts, ignore the evidence, just believe, just have faith. Or sometimes we may associate faith with some kind of extreme viewpoint, extreme fundamentalism, or even really extreme acts. Or sometimes when we think about faith, we might think about like, a cult, having like a guru or some kind of, supreme leader where you're supposed to just, believe whatever they say, do whatever they say, and not question it, not ever think about that. So, just this real blind faith. And, we might feel that, you can either have faith or wisdom. You can't have both. But the Buddhist concept of faith is very different from that. Um, Not only do in Buddhism do we believe that you can have both faith and wisdom, it's actually encouraged to have faith and wisdom. The Buddha didn't at all encourage blind faith. There's actually this one sutta where the Kalama Sutta, where the Buddha went to the Kalama people and, and he was teaching them and he was telling them, he gave all these different reasons not to base your beliefs on, not just because it's what we've been told or it's what the scriptures say. So he really, he was going away from this idea of blind faith. So because the Buddhist concept of faith is quite different than what a lot of people in the West, their understanding of what faith is, their concept of faith, because ours is so different, and because so many people have sometimes these really strong preconceptions. Some people it's almost like a bit of trauma around the concept of faith, the idea of faith. So because of all this, sometimes some of the Western scholars won't even translate it as faith. The Pali word is saddha. And so sometimes they'll actually translate it as confidence, conviction, reason, conviction. And these words are actually really good. These translations are good because I think they convey a bit more of the idea of what faith is in Buddhism. But I'm just going to be using the word faith. It's the one I'm used to. It's the translation I'm used to using. So I'm just going to stick with that for this talk this evening. So faith is in Buddhism, it's what's called a sankhara. So when we talk about the five khandhas, like these five aggregates, these groupings that make up us as a person, one of them is sankharas. So these are kind of these like underlying mind states that, with intention, that will affect the way we think, affect the way we act. So sometimes they're translated as mental formations or volitional formations. So these cover a wide range, the four Brahma Viharas like loving kindness, compassion, uh, mudita, which is appreciative joy, equanimity, these are them. Greed, anger, and delusion are also there. Um, Mindfulness, there's all these different mind states are sankharas, and faith is one of them. So being a sankhara, it means that it's not set in stone. It's not, you either have faith or you don't have faith. You were born with it or not. It's something that, can change. We can develop it. We can increase it over time, but it can also, it can decrease and we can lose faith as well. And so this faith is more of a tool for us, a tool that we use to help us with our practice. And so, you can see this example of faith in, say, in our daily lives, in the world. So when you go to the doctor, you're not feeling well, you go see a doctor, you actually have a certain level of faith in that doctor. You have faith that when you go and see them, they're going to, they know what they're talking about. They're going to diagnose you, and they're hopefully going to give you something to treat whatever is wrong with you. But this faith we have in them, it's not blind faith. It's based on, we have this understanding that to become a doctor, you have to go to university, you have to get a PhD. If they're at a reputable clinic, that just raises the amount of faith and the conviction we can have in them. Nowadays, we can even go online and search them online and see all the different reviews and comments people have about the doctors. Though that probably might not increase our faith in them, but but and then and so then what happens? We have this certain amount of faith going into it, but it's not blind faith. And then we see the doctor, and he treats us. And, if we get better from that, that'll increase our faith. We go back and see the doctor again, treats us again, and we get better. And the more that this happens, the more our faith, our conviction in this, our confidence in this doctor increases. But the opposite can happen too. We go see the doctor and, he doesn't do a good job and, we don't get better. We just keep getting more sick. Our faith in the doctor is going to decrease, and we're not going to believe him as much. We're not going to want to do what he tells us to do. We might not follow his course of treatment because, our faith has declined. Our faith in them has declined. Um, and so, talking about faith, the next thing is like, well, why are we developing faith? Why do we want to develop this quality, this skill? Why do we want to develop this as a tool? So the Buddha, he had this Dhamma list or this set of practices called the five faculties. And it's also the same list appears again as the five powers. So the five powers is just when the five faculties have been taken up to another level, taken up a bit higher, a bit deeper. And this set of practices, the five powers, the first one is faith, and this is what starts off to us. And then faith in this list, faith leads to energy or effort. And so you can see this when you have some kind of faith, some kind of conviction, belief in something. It's much easier to put forth effort into doing that. And the opposite is true. When you have doubt, which is kind of the opposite of faith, when you doubt something, and you don't believe in it, it's much harder to do. It's much harder to put your effort into doing that and to really get the results you want from that. So, an example of this would be um, when I was a junior monk, I went to go stay with Lumpur Biek, and I was really excited to go there. Excited to go stay with the Kruba Ajahn, this teacher who has this great reputation and this really really respected practice place. And I go there and I just, I'm excited. It's just going to be sitting meditation, walking meditation all day, just, all this time by myself, just really go for it in the practice. And then not long after being there, Lumpur Biek announces that we're going to be doing this chanting practice. And this practice is several nights a week. We are going to be chanting this all the prittas, all the auspicious chants, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, so the first discourse of the Buddha, which is quite a long sutta. And then we're going to be chanting the Itipiso chant 108 times. So it turns out this takes like 3 hours of chanting. And so this is several times a week, just this chanting. And I really didn't want to do it. I was just like, oh no, I just wanted to sit and walk. I really wanted to just meditate and do nothing else. But because I had this faith in Lumpur Biek, and really believed that he knows what he's talking about, and that he's has our best interest in mind, I did it, and I did it, really committed to it and devoted myself and did it full on, and it was great, and I had actually a really great time, and I found it really beneficial. Um, so one monk asked me afterwards. I was talking to this American monk I was friends with, and I was telling him about this practice he was doing, and he made the point. He asked me, he's like, if it was this other monk, he just names another monk who's not that senior, and he's like, if it was this monk who told you to do it, would you do it? Would you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, well, probably not. And it was because Lumpur Biek had told me to do it. But again, my faith in Lumpur Biek wasn't blind faith. It wasn't just because I met him and I thought, I should have faith in him. It was based on a lot of things. He has this incredible reputation amongst the forest sangha, amongst the forest monks, and then I'd lived with him for a few months previously. And, from the advice he gave, the Dhamma he taught, the way he was still practicing and encouraging me to practice, this led to me to really, really believe that and have faith that he knows what he's doing, he knows what he's talking about, and I can really trust him. Um, but again, when you have faith in someone, you still have wisdom for doing things too. So, for example, if, he had just asked us to do these chanting practice, but if he'd asked me to do something really wacky, really out there, like, he was like, well, Nando, go flap your arms around like wings and quack like a duck all day, I probably wouldn't do it. So there is that pairing it up with wisdom, which leads to this really great simile. I really like it. It's this comparing faith and wisdom. So it's saying faith is like a blind giant. So this big, strong giant, completely blind. And wisdom is like a physically disabled person with really great eyesight. So without faith, wisdom can't go anywhere or accomplish anything. But without wisdom, faith is just a big blind giant who's just going to stomp around and cause a lot of dhamma. But when they work together, when faith carries wisdom, and wisdom leads faith, they can really go places and really accomplish a lot of things. And so I think this is, there's just this really great simile to illustrate the interplay and the relationship between faith and wisdom. So then, talking about, again, the next step on from this would be, what should we be developing our faith in? And one we want to do is, just, for us is having faith in the Buddha. And this means just, just really like believing that the Buddha, he knew what he was talking about. He was enlightened. When he was teaching, he knew what he was talking about. Because again, if you believe that, what someone's telling you to do or advising you to do is good and is correct, it's going to be easier to do it. We also want to develop faith in the Dhamma, so the teachings of the Buddha and all these practices he taught us. And, we can do this a lot of times just by studying the Dhamma, if we like reading Dhamma books or listening to Dhamma talks, or sometimes we like memorizing Dhamma lists, or just, sitting and thinking and contemplating about different aspects of Dhamma, can really help us have faith in it. And and it's also really interesting when you start reading the suttas and reading some of these teachings of the Buddha, is that when he tells us to do things or says we should do something or we shouldn't do something, he doesn't just say it and leave it at that. He doesn't say, okay, just, don't kill. He actually goes in and explains what the drawbacks of killing are. He explains why not to kill. He explains the benefits of not to killing. So again, even the way he taught, it's not encouraging us to just do what he says. He actually explains and tells us why he's telling us to do this. So there is that, having wisdom with it. We can also, we should try to develop faith in the Sangha, so, this is developing a certain confidence, conviction in the people who are teaching us, the people who have carried on the teachings of the Buddha, who are practicing it. It doesn't mean, we have to think every teacher we have is an arahant, but just have enough faith in them that you're open to hearing what they're saying and you can absorb what they're saying. Because again, if you just don't think the person knows what they're talking about, you have some kind of you hold them in contempt or something, you're never really going to absorb or soak in or really get the most benefit from what they're teaching you and what they're saying to you. But it's also really good to note that when you're developing, faith in a person, you have to be careful not to go overboard, because sometimes, when we have some kind of teacher or, someone we hold up very high, we can get very emotionally invested into this person. We can really build them up. And then sometimes, we can see them do something that we don't think they should do, or we can hold up really unrealistic expectations to them. And if they don't reach these expectations, all that faith, everything can kind of just fall apart. And so this can happen, sometimes people will see with these monks who are, have reputations to be enlightened and stuff. Sometimes we can project onto them that, they're supposed to know everything about everything. They're supposed to be an expert in every single subject. And if, say, they're not good at something, like they're not good at designing a sala, or they're not good at something like this, or they don't know about, modern health trends, or or something like this, and they don't live up to that standard, sometimes we can get, really disappointed with them because we've invested so much into that person, like emotionally. So it really Lumpur Mahamorn would give this simile about this. He said it's about when I stayed there for a while when I was a junior monk, and he would say, it's like when you go to the Bamboo Rocket Festival in Yasaton. He said, you go there with a friend, and you go and you have 1,000 baht, and if you give your 1,000 baht to your friend to hold, baht is the currency in Thailand, so you give your 1,000 baht to your friend to hold on to. But if you get separated from that friend at the festival, because I guess is a big one with a lot of people on it. I mean, Bamboo Rocket Festival in Yasaton, right? And and so you get separated from that friend, you've lost everything. You have nothing left. You have no money. But he said if you give him 500 baht and you hold on to 500 baht yourself, if it does end up you get separated from that person, you've still got something left. So we can use this with this faith in people, is that remember to keep some for ourselves, not to completely 100% devote ourselves just to this one person or emotionally invest in this one person. And then another one I think is really important for us is to have faith in ourselves and have faith that we have the abilities to do stuff, to achieve stuff. Because it's very easy, you have faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. You really believe, meditation and Dhamma practice is going to really benefit, but you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe that you're able to do this. Oh, this is so great, but who am I? I'm terrible. I'm never going to accomplish anything here. If you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be very hard to accomplish your goals. And so you have to develop your faith in yourself and faith that you are able to do this. You are good enough to do this. The Buddha said that he wouldn't teach us these things if we couldn't do them. So we can do them. Believe the Buddha on this part. And so yeah, we develop this faith in ourselves. So uh, so I'd like to offer this to everyone as a bit of a reflection this evening, and that, faith is, even though we may have these different concepts and understandings of faith before, but at least in the Buddhist concept, faith is really, it's a tool and it's a skill, and it's something we use to, help us in practice and help us be able to practice and go beyond our own suffering and hopefully become enlightened. So I'd like to offer this as reflection to everyone this evening.